Hey everyone, I'm Exploring Fiction, and welcome back to another video. Now, from the title of this video, you're probably making some assumptions. But before we dive into anything, let me set the assumptions straight. I am on the side of the anti-woke, anti-SJW, geek culture, culture war YouTubers. And I'm using all those terms in one because I'm not trying to put anyone into a box. I'm trying to create an accurate representation of who I'm talking about. In fact, the first video I made on this channel was about how and why I thought the MCU was going woke, and why that's a bad thing. Go ahead, take a look. I'll even show it up here on the screen. So, at their core, I stand with what most of, if not all, these people are saying here in the Fandom Menace / Culture War YouTube sphere. That being said, I've noticed a recent trend amongst these YouTubers over the past couple years that's genuinely bothered me. It seems as though they've thrown their integrity out the window for money and controversy, or sold their soul to the devil, so to speak. They care less about being heard, their motive before in the early days, and more about being outrage factories, and raking in the sweet, sweet dough through dozens of videos about Rings of Power, She-Hulk, and Willow? Now, many people, when providing criticism or making a rant here on YouTube, stay away from using specifics or calling out individuals. But I'm not going to do that in this video. This comes from a place of love, so I want the people about which I'm talking to hear me clearly. So, I've split this video into 3 parts, into which all, if not most, of the prominent geek culture war YouTubers have been split. The good, the bad, and the criminally underrated. Let's start off with the good. First up is Razorfist. This guy makes some of the best, genuine content in this portion of YouTube. From the hilarious delivery, to the engaging format, to the noir style, Razorfist brings everything you could want from a YouTube personality to the table. What's more, his videos vary in topic, length, and mood. He doesn't just sit and whine for 20 to 40 minutes about the newest Disney show. He talks about politics, geek culture, video games, and more, all in a fun and engaging way. And to top it off, he is a creator himself, writing the pulp stories, the Night Vale novels, and correct me if I'm wrong there. I haven't bought any of his work, but I've seen him advertise it. Being a creator of an actual product is something you'll hear a lot about the people in the good category. Next up is Ethan Van Sciver and fellow comics gators. Speaking of people who are out there creating their own product, here we have former Big 2 artist Ethan Van Sciver, along with the rest of Comicsgate, including John Malin, Shane Davis, Graham Nolan, Aaron Lopresti, Art T. Bear, Reenie, Cecil, and many others. I'm lumping them all together because they share the same niche, but I'm mainly talking about EVS here. And the main reason he and Comicsgate fall in the good category is their creation of product. Sure, make all the jokes you want about late books. They're justified. Hell, I've been waiting for Wreck Planet for like 2 years. But still, they're all paving their own way and creating entertainment for us to enjoy, along with their videos criticizing the mainstream entertainment giants. Also, their live streams feel like they've taken the place of late-night comedy shows, aka now government propaganda machines. Third up in the good is Young Rippa. And I can't believe I got this far in the video without mentioning Young Rippa or Eric July. Rippa, in my opinion, has set the standard for what fighting back in the culture war should look like. No longer is he just talking the talk, he's walking the walk, to the tune of $3.7 million on his first campaign in his comic universe, the Rippaverse, with ISOM number 1. Sure, he's not perfect. I think he takes the whole monetize your haters shtick a bit too far, but I digress. Rippa's been in the game a long time, and now he's creating more change than 99% of other anti-woke or non-woke geek YouTubers. Fourth up in the good is ya boy Zach, aka Richard C. Meyer. Speaking of being in the game a long time, it's time to talk about ya boy Zach. Now, I didn't include him with the other comic skaters for a reason. For a few reasons, actually. He doesn't do live streams anymore, which I'm honestly cool with. I mean, it would be cool for him to appear on live streams, but he can do what he wants. He doesn't associate with the other comic skaters as much in recent years, and he's fallen off that track a bit, especially in the eyes of many fans. However, I'm still including him in the good. Sure, his videos may seem a bit crude, but there's a lot behind them worth something. One, he's truly passionate about comics. Behind the coughing, lack of editing, and tangential tales of TikTok and lawn care, your boy Zach offers genuine criticism, hilarious commentary, and real love for comic books as a medium. And while his own comics may be erratic and a bit hit or miss, he is one of the most truly creative minds on the internet, and he is putting heartfelt entertainment out into the world. And the fifth member of the good category is Shadversity. Switching up gears a little bit, let's talk about Shad. Well, it's true that recently Shad has leaned a little bit harder into pushing back against woke entertainment. He's done so more on his second channel, Night's Watch, and stuck more to his usual content on his main Shadiversity channel. And that's the main reason Shad is still a part of the good. Not only is he producing his own creations in the form of his Shadow of the Conqueror novel and graphic novel, respectively, but 95% of his YouTube content is educational or speculative about fun topics relating to the Middle Ages or fantasy, not to giving the time of day to progressive IPs. The sixth member of the good is It's a Gundam. Another creator somewhat on the fence is It's a Gundam, but I'm ultimately placing him in the good for two reasons. Firstly, he's simply entertaining and hilarious. Gundam's delivery, breakdown, and mocking impressions are unmatched on this side of YouTube, at least in my opinion. Secondly, he covers all manner of woke, aka insane, stories, not just those in geek culture. Instead, he highlights it in every aspect of society, especially on the internet. So, his content is more diverse, and you can tell he's not sitting waiting for Disney or Netflix to make their next woke show in order to make money or content. And the seventh and final member of the good, the critical drinker. Like I said, he's the final person in the good category, and Drinker is by far the closest to drifting into the bad territory. Almost every video his is a dissection, criticism, or epic takedown of some progressive trash IP, to the point where you can almost predict most Critical Drinker videos before you watch them. But with that being said, the man has the most hilarious breakdowns. All his wisecracks from unspecified virus of unknown origin to the message to modern audiences crack me up. Even though the majority of the time, Drinker is talking about the same woke material a lot of the culprits I'm about to mention in the next segment, he does so in a funnier and more digestible way than anyone else. And to top it all off, he also creates his own books as well, the Ryan Drake novels under the name Will Jordan. Now, let's move into the focus and likely most controversial section of this video, the bad. And up there at number 1 is Geeks and Gamers. Much of the geek culture war YouTube has fallen astray, and none more than Geeks and Gamers. And that's hard for me to say, because Geeks and Gamers was the channel that really first introduced me to the geek culture war here on YouTube. I first found Geeks and Gamers the way a lot of other people did. The Last Jedi criticism. I subscribed to Jeremy and his crew because I had finally found someone who shared my unpopular opinion, at least at the time, about The Last Jedi. Since then, though, they've gotten progressively worse. Sure, they have some fun original stuff like Mario Kart live streams and box office update videos, but now they've been reduced to churning out 8 to 10 videos on the same topic with their copy-paste thumbnails all in a short period of time, always making the same point every video, or finding an article from a tiny irrelevant news site to rile up an audience. I mean, just look at their channel when some big woke corporation show debuts like Rings of Power or Witcher, Blood Origin. Those shows deserve to be criticized. And I'll stand behind Geeks and Gamers if they have real new thoughts to share. But they make videos in such an excessive amount about how woke or trash something is that their videos all begin to lose any meaning altogether because they say the same thing every time. And now the second member on my list of the bad creators in the anti-SJW, anti-woke, geek culture war YouTube sphere, Disparu. Now we get to the man who inspired this video. I won't lie to you, I haven't watched a ton of Disparu's content, but that's because I generally find it insufferable. He's been in my recommended feed since Rings of Power became a profitable topic, but let me tell you, Disparu feels like a YouTube version of an industry plant. I hope you understand what I mean by that. Like a lot of the time in music, there will be industry plants where companies prop up a musician because they know that that person's sound will make money. Disparu feels like this guy who just came out of nowhere because he's saying the right things in the anti-SJW geek culture sphere. Like, it doesn't sound like he's genuine, it just sounds like he's saying the right things. Like, where did he come from? He makes reviews for basically all new Disney content, and his reviews are longer than the original content he's complaining about. I mean, he has hour-long reviews for every episode of the Willow series. Who cares enough about Willow to watch some dude rant about it for 6 to 8 hours? All his thumbnails and videos feel the exact same. The thumbnails with their flames, red and white font, and a woman character, usually She-Hulk, Galadriel, or a stupid Willow character, making a screaming face. The title of every video claims disaster, and the video itself is a boring crawl. Let me reiterate, I think these shows are trash as well, but Disparu feels like someone who is capitalizing on the success formula created by Geeks and Gamers and others, and feels so disingenuous in the process. If those woke IPs disappeared today, or one day in the future, Disparu would have nothing. He's built his channel exclusively on hate and rage bait, and I hate to see so many people falling for it. Now the third member of the bad, Yellow Flash. Talk about another rage baiting machine. Yellow Flash actually used to be cool. He was genuinely interesting when his main focus was comic reviews, but he's fallen far away from that now. Once he discovered how profitable outrage videos were, he became unbearable. I hung on for a little bit longer, but he completely lost me with his unending Amber Heard videos. Long after the Heard Depp trial held any interest to most people, he was still hanging on, pushing out each and every world-ending headline involving Amber Heard. Newsflash, no pun intended. Nobody who isn't a normie sheep cares a single bit about Amber Heard anymore. Also, as a side note, and another reason to add to why Yellow Flash is in the bad, he seems to be involved in, or at least an instigator in, much of the drama in the anti-SJW geek YouTube sphere. The fourth occupant of the list of the bad, heel versus babyface. To me personally, Az from heel versus babyface feels like a slightly more entertaining version of Disparu, and that's it. And thus I won't spend too much time talking about him, because you heard what I had to say about Disparu. He has good personality in his videos, but also just feels like another one of these creators capitalizing off outrage content and nothing else. That's all I have to say about heel versus babyface, so let's move on. And the fifth and final member of the bad, Mauler. Now, although I have Mauler in the bad, I'm not going to hate on him too much, because he definitely has his own niche within geek culture YouTube. But damn, dude, do your videos really need to be so long? Having a 5-hour review of Doctor Strange 2 comes off as pretentious, excessive, and overbearing. Yeah, that movie was pretty bad, I agree. But I think you can break it down and make your point much quicker than that. That's all I'm saying. Like, I get Mahler has an audience that wants those type of videos, but to me, they just feel way too much. And that rounds out my list of the bad. The ones I feel are the biggest perps of muddying the culture war sphere waters here on YouTube. They churn out so much senseless content that real criticism and mockery starts to lose its meaning, all getting clumped together as quote-unquote right-wing troll clickbait. The sad thing is, I have or occasionally do like most of these channels, but now, if they ever wanted to say something good about a modern IP, they can't, either because the type of channel and audience they've cultivated won't allow it, or because they know it won't be profitable. And that's just a shame. And as a little side note, since I wrote my script for this video, which is 7.5 pages long, and I hand wrote it because of how passionate I am about this subject, a lot of these channels I have in the bad have been talking about The Last of Us and praising it. And yes, that's great, but at the same time, they're making countless videos and hour-long videos dunking on and criticizing Velma. And I agree, Velma looks stupid and looks like one of the worst shows ever made. However, why? We know it's going to be bad. Why do you have to sit making 8 videos a week on it? But anyway, that's just a little side note that I thought I'd clear up. So, some of you still watching up to this point are probably wondering, why haven't I mentioned Nerdrotic? Well, that answer is simple. I've seen about one Nerdrotic video in my life, so it's not really my place to pass judgment upon him. From looking at his channel, his thumbnails and titles are pretty rage-baity, something that would probably group him in the bad. But again, I want to assume the best. So I'm just going to not include Nerdrotic at all. I just thought I'd mention him for those wondering at this point in the video. And now, on to the third category, the criminally underrated. And the first channel I have in the criminally underrated category is Professor Geek. If you've been around my channel a while, or like my content, you've probably heard of Professor Geek. Aside from his career as a university professor who discusses the importance of heroic archetypes and superheroes in Western culture, the prof runs a very important channel. We need Professor Geek in the anti-woke geek culture war sphere on YouTube for a few reasons. One, he talks about the importance of good storytelling for a living. His knowledge of fiction and archetypes is unrivaled, and he makes strong cases why all archetypes should be present, especially aspirational heroes, something we're sorely missing in modern media. 2. The prof isn't aboard the outrage train. He generally only comments on a popular piece of modern media if he has something unique to say, and it usually involves or criticizes the fans just as much as the piece of media itself. Third, and most importantly, Professor Geek isn't afraid of telling the hard truth, especially about our own side. Some call him black-pilled or overly critical, but I think he gives us all a reality check. He often points out that by hate-watching and reviewing these garbage new shows and movies, the so-called anti-SJW geek YouTubers are just creating buzz and publicity for the very things they say they despise. He's not for everyone, but he's right. So, Professor Geek remains an important and criminally underrated part of this YouTube niche. The second channel in the criminally underrated, David V. Stewart. I've talked about and sung the praises of DVS many a time here on Exploring Fiction, and I'll continue to do so in this video. I mainly got into his content because of his writing and world-building videos, his fun hangout live streams, and his occasional social, political, psychological commentary videos. But I feel recently David V. Stewart has brought something unique to our side of the culture war. First of all, he writes and self-publishes books very consistently, mostly fantasy and horror, and they're not necessarily anti-woke per se, just good stories with good messages and themes. Also, he creates YouTube content in a way I believe will best help us win the culture war, ignoring the bad stuff while celebrating the good stuff. And for an example, when Rings of Power was coming out, every time a new episode was released, unlike making an hour-long review as to why it sucks so bad, like some people I know and have mentioned already, he instead made a new video exploring Tolkien's original works and themes in one way or another, and explained why they were so good and effective. He promoted appreciation and love for a great work by the original creator, instead of outraging the masses by making yet another video as to why the corporation's new version was so bad. Though those videos snagged 2,000 views instead of 150,000 views, they came from a genuine place, which can serve as a lesson for us all. And that segues perfectly into the final section of this video I've dubbed The Solution. To fight and win the culture war at a truly meaningful level, let's ditch the hate watching. Let's ditch the hour-long reviews of every tedious episode. Let's ditch the endless doom and gloom content. All that's doing is giving attention to these terrible, progressive, and yes, woke pieces of garbage that despise us all. Instead, let's ignore them completely and create content and our own media that reflects what we want to see but are lacking. Only then will we finally win the culture war. Much of culture war anti-woke YouTube is just creating countless videos to get clicks, get outrage boiling, and get money. They're not building their channels based on what they love, but what they hate, and that should change. Ironically, that sounds like a Rose Tico line, which is a perfect way to end the video. If you stuck with me this long, I just want to say thank you. This video was honestly a lot of fun to make, but also a lot of work. As I said before, I wrote about a 6.5-page script by hand for it. Anyway, please comment your thoughts below. This video is full of hot takes, so don't knock it too bad. Like I said, it comes from a place of love, because I want to see this side of the geek culture war succeed on YouTube and off of YouTube too. You know, I'm doing this because I want to see these channels improve, at least the ones that were in the bad category. Please share this video with anyone you know who'd be interested. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. I'd love to have you. And like always, I will see you next time.